welcome back to another episode of Corona Geek, the place on Google Plus where we talk about everything that has to do with mobile app development using the Corona SDK. I'm Charles McKeever, and today we're talking about, what are we talking about? We're talking about,
with a guest speaker. Guess.
Yeah, we're talking about 14px and by Allison. Rob's joining us today in the studio from England, and we're gonna mix things up. As always, we've got Brian Burton on the line, and we've got Christopher Ward and his cat. No animals were harmed during the filming of this video.
Yet.
Yet.
Soon.
So Rob, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having me.
This is great. Now, for people who aren't familiar, now Rob, how do you say the name of the game? Is it Pixel or is it PX or what's the?
Well, I've always said 14px, but people have said 14 pixels. So I'm not I'm not going to correct them. I think that's probably more right than the way I'm saying it. So.
Well, it's very gracious of you, since I realized that all through my video review of the app I said Pixel.
Well, in that case, I think I might just change the way I say it. It's easier.
Well, that's the web developer coming out in me. Everything is everything's in pixels. So
yeah.
Well,
he's trying not to make it confused with like the P90X program, so people go, "Ooh, I don't want to exercise. I'm not going near this."
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So for anybody who doesn't know, the 14px game is it's a 2D platformer, which is really a terrible description, Rob. Because the game is so much more. It needs to be like a multi-dimensional 2D platformer. I don't know. It's a pretty dynamic game. So how would you describe it?
It's a bit intense as well. I've been coming up with sentences. I'd say something like a crazy, fast-paced, intense, frustrating platformer game.
Yeah, I like the in the beginning you give everybody a couple of introductory levels to kind of I mean, it's training wheels. You kind of say, here's where you start, this is what you're supposed to be doing, and this is where you're supposed to end. And then after that, the bottom just falls out.
Yeah. Flying spiky things come flying at you.
Yeah, I think there's death floors and spiky thingies is what you call them.
Yeah.
So that
I have a habit of naming things very quickly, with a thought of I'll go back and give it a proper name later on, and then never doing that. So then they have a silly name forever.
Yeah.
So,
Once it sticks, it's permanent, right? Yeah. So this is a Corona developed app, and so how long have you been using Corona?
I would say just over 1.5 years.
Okay. And this isn't your first game, though, is it?
No, it's not. I counted earlier on today. I think I made about 7 games actually. I've released 5 of those. 2 of them I stopped because I decided they weren't any fun, and started a new project. But I just love developing in Corona, so I just keep on making games in it. It's a fun process for me to go through.
Now, what were the other 2 games?
Well, the one before this one was called Stay Alive, which again, not a very good name, because I named it Stay Alive when I named the project when I first started, and the object of the game is guess what, is to stay alive, and you're a little spaceship flying through space. So there's that one. I've got one called Orb Connect and one called Bouncing Birds, which have bouncing birds in them.
So you're kind of like, what you see is what you get sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no surprise.
It's hard to describe an app sometimes, so I just bouncing birds.
Yeah. Well, I have to say I've played Stay Alive, and I like it. It's for anybody who's looking for something like that. It's you fly the ship and it's distant space, so see how far you can get, and you play against yourself and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I can see some of the mechanics in it are from there come across to 14px. So that's
definitely
that's interesting. So Drummer Games is the label, though, that you publish your games under.
Yeah.
So what's the story behind that? Are you a drummer?
I am a drummer. It's that's my favorite hobby. Possibly maybe making games is my favorite hobby now, but I've been playing drums for about 9 or 10 years now, and I really like it. I'm very passionate about it. So when I was trying to think of a name, I was like, well, I'm doing games. and I'm a drummer. Put the two together, it's Drummer Games. But people keep asking me, like, so where's your drum kit game? Is there a game where I'm a drummer? It's like, no. Maybe I should do one. A flying drum kit, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, you have an actual drum set for that, right? So you.
Yeah.
So how did you get into game development then? How did you go from being a drummer into being a game developer?
Well, when this is going back quite a few years now, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, when I was in a band a long time ago, playing shows all around Yorkshire where I live. I used to make games in Flash for our band. And I was really, really bad at it. It was these silly little games, and we put them on our website, and people would play it, and it was a lot of fun. And then, since doing that, I stopped doing games after. Well, Flash was very big quite a while ago, but then I started just making websites, and I never really got into games until I found the Corona SDK again, and then that's when I really got into it. And yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So you don't have any formal background as a developer or anything then?
No. I started being I'm a web developer now, but I started being a web developer pretty much at the exact same time as I started doing Corona.
Gotcha.
So I've been doing it for just about 1.5, 2 years maybe.
Okay. That's pretty good. I mean, the complexity of this game, I mean, it's incredible that you can accomplish that.
Yeah, it took a long time. This one. It's a lot of fun though.
Where do you get most of your information and stuff like that? How do you find ways to create the things you want to create?
Well, the way I did 14px is I was playing I have got an old NES game, a NES console. I was playing Mario Brothers, and I wanted to make a platformer, like the ones I used to play when I was a kid. Yeah. So I opened up the Corona SDK and started making a tile-based system. So I could have all these tiles going on. And I had no idea how to do it. I was Googling all over the place. And I couldn't find a suitable tutorial. So I just went ahead and spent ages and ages trying to work it out on my own. But the Corona SDK is pretty easy to get going. So it's just trial and error until I got in there. And then I was looking at the Corona forum quite a bit. There's a lot of information in there. Yeah.
So is 14px kind of based off of the Mario Brothers theme, or I mean, how did you come up with that concept?
Well, yeah, it kind of is. Yeah, it's like the old retro, what I call retro platformers. Yeah. When I first started 14px, you weren't that little ink blot as you described it, which is a better description of anything I could ever think of. It was actually this little redhead, like me, little character who's running around in the darkness fighting zombies, but I can't draw. So I decided to change it into this little ink blot. So it's kind of based on that, but it was a game I wanted to make, like a really fast, difficult, but rewarding platformer.
So did you create the graphics for that yourself then?
I did, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, I used Photoshop. And like I said, it did have characters and zombies and all sorts of things like that. But I decided that I'm not the best artist, so I concentrated on the gameplay mechanics rather than the graphics themselves. So
no, wait a minute. Then there's an online editor portion to this, and I was counting it up before the show, and there's 91 different pieces that you can lay down to create your own custom levels. So you created all the graphics for all 91 pieces?
I did, yeah.
That's amazing.
I have a full-time job, so for about 2-3 months, I'd get home from work and think, well, what could I add? Oh, a cloud that you jump on and it makes you bounce high, or some gun that when it receives power it fires you. I just kept adding little bits every night, and before I knew it, I'd created about 90 odd tiles. There's actually maybe about 10 tiles which didn't make it into the game, which are actually still in the code, but they're not in any of the levels because they're too difficult. Some flying things that chased you, which you just died straight away. So I took them out.
Did you keep a notebook or something, or I mean, how did you?
Yeah, I used Evernote.
Okay.
Do you know the app Evernote?
Yeah.
So I'd be walking down the street and I'd have an idea, so I quickly log it in my phone on Evernote, and then I had this big long list, and then when I got home, I'd implement them. I'd make that certain tile that did something. So yeah, it's a good process.
Well, technically, from a technical perspective, did you use object-oriented programming for this? Is each item in that list an object, or are they just?
Yeah.
How'd you do that?
I had like one main function which made, I think it's called something like make square, and then I've got a big long list in a Lua object which says basically when you make it, can it kill the player? Can you walk through it? So I try to keep it as easy as possible for me to add things, which is probably why I ended up with so many things. So it was just so easy, and it was a fun experience as well to put them into the game, and then have a little play test and see what happened, see if it was any fun.
Yeah, once I did that math to figure out how many things I was looking at, I was like, wait a minute, you'd have to create some sort of, there's to be some sort of organization on the back end to make sure that you can add stuff in and maintain things and not break anything. So
yeah,
so that's
it did get kind of complicated. I had to reorganize my code at one point because it started off quite a small project, but then it soon got quite large. So yeah, I had to reorganize a lot of things in there.
Yeah. How many times did you have to do that?
Always one main reshuffling of the code. I actually started the game, I think, 3 times. I restarted the graphics definitely 3 times, but the actual code itself was one massive reshuffling. I remember that.
So was the level editor an afterthought, or was it there from the beginning, or what's the?
Well, when I first started the game, I really wanted to have a level editor because it was something I wish like Mario Brothers had. I'd love to have made my own levels. So I knew at one stage I'm going to have to make a level editor for myself so I could make levels for players to play. So I decided why not just take that an extra step forwards and make it public so people can use it. And I made about, I think there's 45, maybe 50 levels in the game. And the first 20 were made in my very, very early rough version of the level editor, which was just my thing. And then I decided one weekend to make the public-facing one. And as soon as I finished the public-facing one, I could make it on the internet, save it into my database, and then play it on my phone to playtest it. And I found it so easy to make levels that I soon got the second half of the levels out in like maybe two evenings. So I found that it was very useful. I wish I made the public ones right from the beginning, because it would have made my making levels a lot easier.
So, my brain kind of just spins when I think about the possibilities around this. Are you planning to extend that? Add features onto it?
Yeah, there's a lot I've got planned for it. I'm going to take it slow at first because I do have a job. It's a bit difficult to find time, but I've got a lot planned. My next step is just to release maybe another world or 2 worth of levels for people to play, and then the level editor. I've got big plans for that. I wanted that to be you sign up and have an account, possibly sign up with Facebook, so then you can see your friends on there, and then you can send your friends a level and say, "Hey, beat this." And I think that would be quite a cool feature, but I need to really dedicate some time.
Yeah, I think that would be a really exciting feature, and that would really separate your game from a lot of the other games that are out there. That's a very exciting feature.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked about this kind of on a different show, but you need the software that allows a community to build up around it. Every time somebody adds something, it adds value to that platform. So. You've got something great there. Are you going to try to? You have any monetization plans for it, or are you just going to try to, build up a strong community?
Well, I'd like to leave it as you buy the game and you have the game. I'm not a big fan of putting, like the whole you get the game for free, or even if you pay for it and then you have to pay extra for levels. I understand it works really well in some platforms, but like I say, I have a job. I'm very lucky that I'm not relying on this for a living. Any money I get from it is great, but I kind of want people to just have the game, play it, really enjoy it, tell their friends about it, and then it's more about that really, like the community and people enjoying it.
Yeah, that seems like if you went that route, you get a lot of people, a lot of distribution, a lot of people sharing it, a lot of people building value up on it, things like that. Yeah, I'm you got to tell us, you got to come back and tell us that story at a different time, because I don't know, I can see all kind of different things that could, different directions that could go. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going to expand the level editor. Today, when you save a level, it's published, right? You can save it to test it, but then when you publish it, it's published. Is there going to be any opportunity later to go back and edit a map?
Well, I had to think this through, and I think rather than editing it, I'd have you'd be able to like duplicate the level, because the problem I'd have is if once I like make a big high score table and people challenge each other on like how quick they complete the level, what would stop someone from publishing it, then editing it and making it really easy?
Yeah.
Completing it themselves and then editing it again to make it really difficult again. So yeah, I think once it's published, it's published.
Yeah.
You can copy the level and then alter it as you wish, and then publish that one, and then that's stuck. But I think the code I've done is a possible, I think something like 10 million, no, it'd be 99 million levels you could possibly have on my database. So I don't think they'll run out. I think there's something like 15 possibly out there at the moment. I haven't told many people about it. So
all right, I'm holding you to that. I'm gonna clip that out, and then we're gonna play that back again later when you've got like a gazillion levels, and you're standing next to Mark Zuckerberg. So without divulging too many of your secrets, can you tell us what kind of back end is required in order to create something like that or support something like that?
Well, the level editor is it communicates with the MySQL database with PHP. Which is something I used to do before I did Corona. Like only little bits of it though. I'm no expert with PHP or MySQL. But the main working of it is all in JavaScript and HTML5, and I do a lot of JavaScript, so I kind of knew where I was with that. But I used HTML5's Canvas, which is just a great tool for the level editor.
Okay, that's interesting. And is that we're using jQuery then? Is that?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of jQuery. Yeah, so it's jQuery, and there's a plugin. I'll have to send you the link. I think it's something like jCanvas, which is an open source Canvas plugin for jQuery, which made everything like really simple to make.
Okay, so you're kind of there's this camp of should you be doing HTML5, CSS, jQuery games, or should you be doing native games? You're kind of smashing it all together, right?
Yeah.
And making use of both technologies in a way that's appropriate for their platforms.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of the games on phones, and I've always wanted to do them. Yeah. But I like to use the jQuery side, so I mix it up and make a level editor in the web browser and game on the phone.
So, did you run into any code challenges along the way? Was there anything that kind of tripped you up and made it difficult?
Yeah, there was quite a few. How long have you got? The main issue I had was a way of rendering the levels on the device as a playable level. I tried all sorts of things. I was looking for a nice tiled map solution that I could use, but what I ended up doing is coding it myself. So it's a Lua object, like a or maybe even a four. No, it's a three-dimensional array with. Oh, it's so crazy. When I look at it now, I don't even understand how it works when I look back at it. Because I wrote it like months ago now, but it took me a long time to get that working. I was sitting there for a long time making sure it works. And I spent maybe a week making it so the map could be infinitely large, and then decided to limit the map to 125 by 125. And the grid size, in case you're wondering, is 14px.
I was hoping that would come in someplace.
Yeah. Each tile is 14 pixels, and the kind of reason I named that is because I was really worried that I would push the device's memory too much by reducing it to 14 pixels, because that means there's like, I don't know, a lot more tiles on the screen at any one time. So I was really worried about that, and I thought, I'll just do it. I'm going to do it at 14 pixels, and I was like, I'll name it that. And it stuck. Yeah.
That's good. I like that. So most of the code issues you were able to work through. Is there anything else? Is there anything that's still giving you problems?
Yeah, well, there's two people have sent me an email saying they've unlocked God mode somehow. And there's a bug somewhere. I don't know how to replicate it. I might not even try to fix it. It's like a bonus. I might pretend it's meant to be there.
It's a feature.
But it's a feature. It's you've unlocked an award. And someone sent me a video of them running around the level, getting hit by all sorts and getting killed, but still being able to complete the level. So I don't know how I'm going to solve that, because I can't replicate it. But as soon as I can, I will solve that. But there's also one more, which is sometimes when you start a level, things that were flying at you before you died will still be flying at you. So when you reappear, you can get killed by what killed you before, making it almost impossible. But I'm just going to pretend. I'm going to pretend it's part of the game. It just makes it more difficult. It's my goal.
Challenge.
Yes.
Yeah, all those are features. Those aren't. That's not bugs. That's features.
Yeah, definitely.
Supposed to be there.
Right, you meant to do that.
Yeah.
So now the audio in the game, I actually in the video when I did the review, I left the audio in the background because it was a nice backdrop to everything. Did you create that yourself, or was that stock audio?
Yeah. No, I created the soundtrack, the music. I created that myself in Logic Pro. That was a lot of fun. That's what I used to do before I did games, like play around making music. So that's one of my favorite things to do when making games. Make the soundtrack. It's really cheesy, and people have told me it's got a Gangnam Style drop in it. So I didn't notice that while I was making it, but now I can't not hear it every time I hear it. So.
Yeah. Do you ever create audio tracks for anybody besides your own use?
No, I've only done it for myself so far. For my games.
Yeah.
If people were to request you to do all their audio, would that be an interest of yours? Maybe.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Now we have an audio guy. Awesome.
We got an audio guy. Ooh, that one in. Yeah, that's audio.
So you mentioned Photoshop, and what was that? Logic Pro you just said for the
Logic Pro.
Yeah, and then HTML5 Canvas, jQuery, all those different tools. Was there anything else that you used? Any other tool that you used that you felt like was important to the development?
Well, I guess the only thing I use is my text editor. I use Sublime Text.
Yeah.
It's just there's some really great Corona. People have built some really great ones specifically for Corona use. But as I say, I also do quite a lot of web development. So I've got one text editor which is Sublime, Sublime Text, which I use, which is it works quite well with the Corona SDK.
Did you get the build feature? Somewhere there's supposed to be a way that you can attach Sublime to the Corona SDK, and then when you hit build from within Sublime, it builds everything. Did you get that part working?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Not in Sublime. I used to use TextMate.
Okay.
I did have it working in there, but I haven't hooked it up yet in Sublime.
Okay.
Even though I've been using it for about a year, maybe. Maybe I should get around to doing that.
Yeah, Jonathan Wheat asked me about that because he uses Sublime as well, and I do too. Off and on, I'm fickle. I use a bunch of different tools, and I messed with it for about 5 minutes, and when I couldn't get it to work, I said, "Forget it. I'm gonna move on to something else." I got Oprah to watch or bonbons to eat or something. I move on to something else. So is there any advice that you would give to new developers? Anything they need to know that you?
Yeah, something I wish people told me when I started. I think the most important thing is make something that you think is fun, and you won't get bored because you got to commit some time into making a game. And the way I do it now, at least, not when I started, is if I'm not enjoying it, if I'm not pressing save and then Corona pops up with a playable thing which I'll enjoy, I'll get bored and I can't complete the project. So definitely aim to make something that you yourself find fun, and make the whole developing process challenging for yourself, but in a good way. So you're always learning from it, and the more fun you have, the more chance you're going to complete it, and the more chance other people are going to find it fun. The end product fun.
Yeah, and at the end, if nobody plays it, it's still yours, right?
Yeah, at least it's like just like doing a jigsaw. It's a hobby. Even if no one plays it, if you have fun making it, it doesn't really matter. You've still achieved something, and you've learned so much from it as well. I've always found that, like, with every single app I've made, even like ones which have only had like maybe 100 downloads in a year, I learned a lot while making it, so it's completely worth it.
Yeah, we've talked about that before on the show. Is that the guys who made Angry Birds, that was not their first app.
No.
They made a bunch of them before that, and they just hit on one that made them rich, I guess. So are there any apps, whether they're Corona apps or not Corona apps or whatever, is there what's on your device right now that's your go-to app, the thing that you
I got a bunch of apps. I download loads of apps. Well, Evernote. I've already mentioned Evernote.
Yeah.
I always pop out Evernote and type some notes into there. But I use Alien Blue a lot, which is a Reddit client. The website Reddit.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Use that a lot. I use Spotify. I'm a big fan of Dropbox. Netflix. Yeah. Another one which is absolutely great, which links in with Corona, is I've got the Corona. Is it Ultimote? Corona Ultimote, which allows you to use your handset as a remote control for your Corona simulator. I wouldn't have been able to make 14px without that. That's a really, really great app to have.
Okay. Corona Ultimote.
I haven't used that one yet. Give me a second. Let me just. What was that again?
Yeah, I think it's on.
I'll find it on my device.
It should be.
I think it's
been out there for quite a while.
Yeah, it should be on the resources page on Corona Labs, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
They also released, I've forgotten what it's called, so I'm sorry, but they released one where you could test the speed of your app. So you could test the frames per second and like what's taking up the most processing power.
So when you when you throw your device across the room, you know how fast it's going.
Yeah. I'm interested in. I'm a big fan of GitHub. The open source repository. So I kind of wouldn't mind putting all my source code for the level editor on there.
I have a lot of students that would love to create something like that, and if they had a template, that'd be a huge help.
Yeah, well, I might have to clean up some of my code. Level editor. But yeah, definitely. I would be interested in that. I've put something together. Yeah, that'd be good.
So going back to the app question there, did you use Evernote? Do you just use it for text notes, or do you use it for like the whole picture and voice and all that those features?
I've not taken advantage of their other features yet. I'm just really using it for text notes. There have been a few times where I've taken a snapshot of something, but it's mainly just when I have a thought, I'll make a note of it so I can come back to it later. It's very handy like that.
Okay, yeah. I'm just curious as how other people are using it, because I've just gotten to the point where I'm using it more and more because I can access it across all the different devices and platforms and stuff. So, so very good. Well, Brian, did you have any other questions that you wanted to ask? Anything that?
No, I want to see the code for his level editor. I've got students that are going to want to do that.
Yeah,
I'm teaching a game development class next semester that's focused on mobile, and I can just see if I tell them about this, they're going to be, how do we do this?
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'll get on that.
You're a better man than I, because if I worked that hard to create something like that, I would be precious. Yeah.
Well, and that's why I'm saying put it out there as a template, and I think people would be happy to pay for a download of it.
Oh, okay.
I've seen a couple of those where I honestly think the guy was making more money selling templates than he was selling his own apps.
And that's often the case with things like this. That while you've made a great app and it's out there, it's selling. The templates for other developers can be a huge help.
Yeah.
Well, it's something that's very interesting because it's the whole. It's not just the level editor; it's the tiled system I made. As I said, it took me a long time to make, and it'd be a shame for it just to be in 14px and that to the end of it.
Right.
So it is reusable. I remember when I made it so you can set how large it is, how large each of the tiles are. So it is customizable as well. So it is.
Yeah, I've played with Lime before, but I'd love to see what you've done.
Yeah.
It might not be the most efficient thing. I don't know. Someone else will have to look at the code and tell me if it's good or not. Hopefully, it is good. I don't know.
Well,
right.
An artist is never content with their work. So that's all there is to say about that. Okay. Well, what's the best way that people can contact you if they want to?
I'd say Twitter. I think Twitter's the best way to contact me. I'm always on Twitter.
So just your handle's just Rob Allison?
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Okay. And we'll
I think it's on my site somewhere.
Yeah, we'll put a link to that in the show notes as well. And we'll also link to your website where you've got your blog and all your other stuff going on there as well. So
thanks.
Okay. Well, Chris, do you have any more questions?
No, actually, it looks like he's on Twitter, YouTube, Vimeo, Skype, LinkedIn. If you want to get a hold of this guy, he's not real difficult to get a hold of. Pick a social media, he's there.
That's right. So be sure to check out 14px. Download it. There's a free or light version of it that you can download to try the game out, but I don't think you need to go that route. I think you need to download the paid version and get all the goodness that goes along with it, because that gives you access to the level editor, those levels that you create custom. It also gives you access to all 45 levels and things like that. So I think that's the best route to go, really, if you're interested in that. And we will also post a link to the full review so that you can see the game in action, see how terrible I am at it, and get a good sense of what you can do with the level editor. So, Rob, thank you for joining us today. Hang on after the interview, and we'll talk some more. But thanks for being here with us and sharing your time with us.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for watching this episode of Corona Geek. You can find more interviews like this at coronageek.com, and you can follow us on any one of the social media outlets of your choice. We are on all of them as Corona Geek. And until next time,
take it easy.
Bye.
Bye.